Emma Carter, a 28-year-old marketing manager sitting at her sleek desk in a modern office. The city skyline glimmers through the window behind her, a symbol of her hard-earned success. Emma is the epitome of stability, a promising career, a cozy apartment, and a credit score that reflects her diligent financial. But today, everything changes. As she sips her coffee, her phone buzzes with a notification. It's a letter from Greenwood Bank. The moment she opens it, her heart sinks. The words, "payment overdue," leap off the page, followed by a staggering figure, $200,000. Emma's fingers tremble as she reads the letter again, disbelief washing over her. "This can't be right," she mutters to herself. She grabs her phone, her mind racing, and dials the bank's number. After navigating through an endless maze of automated responses, she finally reaches a customer service representative. "I'm calling about this letter," Emma says, her voice steady but laced with anxiety. "There must be some mistake." The representative's response sends her world spiraling. "I see the loan here, ma'am. It was co-signed by you on March 15th of last year." Emma's stomach drops. "That's impossible. I never signed anything." The representative continues. "Your signature is clearly visible on all the forms." As the reality of the situation sinks in, Emma's heart races. Her parents, Laura and Mark Carter, have somehow used her name to secure a massive loan without her knowledge. Determined to uncover the truth, she demands copies of all the documents related to the loan. Emma's mind races as she drives to her parents' house, the familiar streets now feeling alien and threatening. Memories of family dinners and laughter flood her mind, but today all she feels is betrayal. She parks her car haphazardly in the driveway next to her sister Sophie's blue sedan and takes a deep breath before stepping inside. The scene is deceptively normal. Her mother Laura is setting the table, and her father Mark is lounging in his favorite armchair, watching TV. Sophie looks up from her phone, startled by Emma's sudden entrance. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Emma's voice booms, louder than she intended, causing Laura to drop a fork with a clatter. "Honey, what's wrong?" Laura's face morphs into a mask of concern, but Emma notices a flicker of something else in her eyes. Fear, perhaps? Emma slams the bank letter on the dining table. "This is wrong. Over $200,000 is wrong." Mark finally pays attention, muting the TV. "Now, Emma, let's not get dramatic." "Dramatic? You forged my signature. You used me as a guarantor without my knowledge." Emma's voice rises, filled with anger and disbelief. Sophie picks up the letter, her eyes widening as she reads. "Mom, Dad, what did you do?" "We did what we had to do," Laura replies, her voice hardening. "The business was failing. We needed capital to keep it afloat." "Though you committed fraud?" Emma laughs bitterly, the hurt evident in her voice. "You destroyed my credit and my future without even asking me." Mark stands up, his face reddening. "Everything we've done has been for this family. You owe us." "I owe you nothing." Emma's words explode out of her, filled with rage. "You had no right." "Keep your voice down," Laura hisses. "The neighbors'll hear." "Let them hear. Let everyone hear how you betrayed your own daughter." Emma's heart races as she feels the weight of the betrayal. Sophie steps between them, trying to diffuse the situation. "Maybe we should all calm down." "Are you part of this too?" Emma turns on Sophie, her eyes blazing. The guilty look on Sophie's face says everything. "Get out," Mark points at the door. "If you're going to be ungrateful, get out of my house." "Gladly." Emma snatches the letter back, her heart pounding. But this isn't over, not by a long shot. As she storms out, her phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. "Heard you're in trouble. I can help." Emma sits in her car, staring at the text. It's from Sophie, her cousin, a successful attorney who had distanced herself from the family years ago. Emma remembers the whispers and judgment that had pushed Sophie away. But now, she feels a flicker of hope. Sophie had always been the black sheep of the family, the one who refused to play by their rules. Maybe it was time for Emma to follow her example. She quickly types a response. When can we meet? The reply comes almost instantly. Tomorrow 9 a.m. at my office. Let's make them pay. Emma starts the engine, her mind racing with possibilities. They thought they could use her, manipulate her, destroy her future for their benefit. But they had forgotten one crucial detail. She wasn't that naive little girl anymore who would do anything to please her parents. The next morning, Emma arrives at Sophie's law office, which occupies the entire top floor of a sleek downtown building. As the elevator doors open, she finds herself face to face with Sophie for the first time in 5 years. Sophie looks exactly as Emma remembers. Sharp blazer, perfectly styled hair, and eyes that could cut through steel. "You look terrible," Sophie says, pulling Emma into an unexpected hug. "Thanks, I feel worse," Emma replies, her voice shaky. Sophie leads Emma through a maze of cubicles to her corner office. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer a panoramic view of the city, but Emma barely notices. Her attention is fixed on the stack of documents spread across Sophie's desk. "I pulled everything I could find on your parents' business dealings," Sophie says, closing the door. "It's worse than you thought." Emma's heart races as Sophie reveals that there are multiple loans taken out in her name, totaling over $500,000. The room spins as Emma grips the edge of the desk to steady herself. $500,000? She gasps. How could they do this? "Sit before you fall." Sophie guides her to a chair and presses a glass of water into her hand. "Now, tell me everything." Emma recounts the confrontation with her parents, watching Sophie's expression darken with each detail. "Classic narcissistic manipulation," Sophie mutters, taking notes. "They're counting on your emotional attachment to keep you quiet. They've got another thing coming." Emma feels a surge of determination. Damn right they do. The next week passes in a blur of paperwork and revelations. Sophie's office becomes Emma's second home, with takeout containers and coffee cups marking their progress through mountains of financial records. They are building something bigger than just a fraud case. They are uncovering years of financial manipulation. One afternoon, a knock on the office door interrupts their work. Emma looks up to see Sophie's sister Juliet standing there, fidgeting with her purse strap. "Can I come in?" Her voice is barely above a whisper. Sophie shoots Emma a warning look, but Emma nods. "Close the door behind you." Juliet sinks into a chair, looking smaller than Emma has ever seen her. "You need to know something about Mom and Dad's business," she says, her hands twisting in her lap. Emma leans in, her heart racing. "What is it?" "Emily weren't just taking loans for the business," Juliet says, her voice trembling. "Dad's been gambling online, betting mostly. He lost everything." The revelation hits Emma like a punch to the gut. "How long has this been going on?" "Years," Juliet replies, tears welling in her eyes. "Mom covered for him, took out loans to pay his debts. When banks stopped lending to them," she gestures helplessly at the documents spread across Sophie's desk. "That's when they turned to identity theft." Sophie finishes Juliet's thought, using Emma's clean credit. "There's more," Juliet continues, reaching into her purse and pulling out a USB drive. "I copied Dad's emails. He's been talking to some really scary people about paying back debts. I think he might be in trouble with loan sharks." Sophie plugs in the drive, and they watch as email after email populates her screen. Threats, payment demands, and even photos of their family being watched. It's worse than they had imagined. "This changes things," Sophie mutters, scrolling through the messages. "We're not just dealing with fraud anymore. This is organized crime territory." "Well, are you helping us?" Emma asks Juliet, her voice softening. "Why now?" "Because I can't sleep at night," Juliet admits, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Every time I look at you, I remember standing there while they forged your signature. I didn't stop them. I should have stopped them." Emma feels a mix of anger and compassion. "You can help us now. We need to expose them." Just then, Emma's phone buzzes with a text from her mother. "Your father's not well. Please come home. We need you." "Don't." Juliet warns. They're trying to guilt you into dropping everything. Dad's fine, Emma replies, her heart racing. He was playing golf this morning. A sharp knock interrupts them. Percy, the bank officer, stands in the doorway, looking even more nervous than usual. I found something, he says, hurrying inside. What is it? Sophie demands. Your father didn't just forge Emma's signature, Percy says, handing over a stack of documents. He's been doing this to other family members too, cousins, aunts, uncles, anyone with good credit. Emma's heart races as she processes the information. Show me. These are just the ones I could access, Percy continues. There might be more at other banks. Lee, Sophie breathes, flipping through the pages. This is systematic fraud. They've built a whole pyramid scheme using family members as unwitting guarantors. That's not all, Percy says, pulling out his phone. Listen to this voicemail from your father last week. As Percy plays the recording, Mark's voice fills the room. Percy, buddy, you need to destroy those original documents. All of them. Things are getting complicated and we can't risk anyone finding them. Do this for me, and I'll make it worth your while. Did you? Emma asks, her heart racing. Percy shakes his head. I kept everything. Made copies too. What they're doing, it's not right. Sophie is already typing furiously on her computer. This is exactly what we needed. With this evidence we can… Another knock interrupts her. A young paralegal bursts in, looking excited. Miss Sophie, you need to see this. Someone just posted on social media about Mr. Mark, asking them to be a loan guarantor. It's going viral. They crowd around Sophie's phone as the post from their cousin Sarah appears. Warning, if Mark asks you to sign anything, don't. He tried to make me guarantee a loan today. When I refused, he got aggressive. Watch out, family. Something shady is going on. It's all falling apart, Juliet whispers. No, Sophie corrects, a fierce grin spreading across her face. It's all coming together. Your parents thought they could keep this quiet, use family loyalty to cover their tracks, but they forgot something important. What's that? Emma asks. The truth always comes out, and when it does, it comes out all at once. Emma's phone buzzes again, this time with a message from her dad. You're tearing this family apart. Is that what you want? She shows the message to Sophie, who snorts. No, you're not tearing the family apart. You're exposing the rot that was already there. Big difference. Looking at the evidence spread before them, the forged signatures, the threatening emails, the social media post, Emma feels a strange sense of calm. The truth is finally emerging, one damning piece at a time. What now? Juliet asks. Sophie's smile is razor-sharp. Now we go nuclear. Going nuclear turns out to mean a coordinated legal and public assault that would make Emma's parents' heads spin. Sophie's office buzzes with activity as they prepare for what she calls Day. The annual family reunion is this Saturday, Sophie announces, pinning photos to a large corkboard. Everyone will be there. It's the perfect time to serve the papers in front of the whole family. Juliet gasps. That's brutal. That's the point, Sophie replies, tapping each photo as she speaks. Aunt Margaret, Uncle Robert, Cousin Sarah. All potential victims. They need to know what's happening before your parents can target them next. Emma's phone lights up with another message from her mom. Your father's having chest pains. If you care at all, come home now. Lying about health issues, Sophie scoffs. Classic manipulation tactic. Watch. Just then, another text appears. We're selling the house to make things right. Please don't do this to us. Right on cue, Sophie shakes her head. They're getting desperate. A knock at the door reveals Percy, clutching a thick manila envelope. I found the original loan applications, the ones with the forged signatures. They're keeping the originals in a safety deposit box. How did you get these? Emma asks, her heart racing. Your mother came to withdraw them this morning. I convinced her the bank needed to make copies first. He smiles weakly. She doesn't know I kept the originals. Sophie practically snatches the envelope from his hands. This is gold, pure gold. There's something else. Percy pulls out his phone. I recorded her threatening me. She said if I didn't help them cover this up, they'd claim I was the one who forged everything. As the recording plays, Laura's usually sweet voice turns cold and threatening. Emma barely recognizes her. Add witness intimidation to the list, Sophie mutters, updating her notes. The DA is going to love this. Dia? Juliet's voice cracks. You're going to have them arrested? This isn't just civil anymore, Sophie explains. They're looking at serious prison time. Emma's stomach lurched, but before she could respond, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group message to the entire extended family. Emergency family meeting tonight at our house. Emma is making false accusations. Please come support us in this difficult time. Amber and Mark, Sophie grinned. Perfect. They're gathering all our witnesses in one place. I can't go, Emma says, her voice trembling. I can't face them. You have to. Sophie grips Emma's shoulders. Show them you're not afraid. Show them they can't manipulate you anymore. That evening, Emma pulls up to her parents' house, Sophie beside her in the passenger seat. Cars line the street. It seems like the whole family has shown up. Ready? Sophie asks, briefcase in hand. Emma admits, her heart racing. But let's do it anyway. Inside, the living room is packed. Faces turn toward them as they enter. Some concerned, some angry, some just confused. Laura and Mark stand at the front of the room, looking like they've aged years in the past week. Emma, Laura steps forward, arms outstretched. Thank goodness you're... Save it! Sophie's voice cuts through the room. We're not here for reconciliation. She opens her briefcase and begins passing out documents. These are copies of fraudulent loan applications. Your signatures were forged by Mark and Laura. Check them carefully. Some of you might find surprises. The room erupts in chaos. Aunt Margaret screams when she finds her signature, Uncle Robert starts cursing, and Cousin Sarah bursts into tears. This is all lies, Mark shouts over the noise. We would never... Sophie pulls out her phone and plays Percy's recording. Laura's threats fill the room, silencing everyone. Oh my God, someone whispers. Oh my God, there's more. Sophie continues, her voice steady. Bank statements, email threats, evidence of gambling debts, a whole pattern of fraud and deception, using all of you as unwitting victims. We did it for the family, Laura cries. Everything we did was for... Stop. Emma's voice surprises even her. Just stop lying for once in your life. Tell the truth. The room goes silent. All eyes turn to her parents. Mark seems to deflate, sinking into his armchair. I lost everything, he whispers. The business, our savings, everything. I couldn't stop. So you decided to destroy your daughter instead? Sophie's voice drips with contempt. Steal her identity, ruin her credit. We were desperate, Laura sobs. We didn't know what else to do. Well, now you've lost something else, Emma says, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. You've lost me. As she turns to leave, Sophie's voice stops her. Actually, there's one more thing. She pulls out a final stack of papers. These are for you, Mark and Laura. You've been served. The papers hit the coffee table with a satisfying thud as they walk out, the sound of their family's shocked voices following them into the night. The war has begun, and there would be no going back. The courthouse steps feel like a stage, and Emma and Sophie are about to put on the performance of their lives. As they approach the courtroom, Emma's heart races. Today is the preliminary hearing, and her parents are about to learn exactly what they're up against. Remember, Sophie whispers as they walk, let me do the talking. No matter what they say, no matter how they try to provoke you. As they enter the courtroom, familiar faces fill the gallery. Aunt Margaret sits rigid in the front row, clutching her purse like a shield. Uncle Robert glares daggers at Emma's parents, while Cousin Sarah dabs at her eyes with a tissue. "I'll rise." The judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s, enters and takes her seat. First case, Carter versus Carter, allegations of identity theft and financial fraud. Emma's parents' lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, stands up. "Your Honor, this is a simple family misunderstanding that's gotten out of hand. We move to dismiss." "Misunderstanding?" Sophie's voice could have frozen hell. "Your Honor, I have documented evidence of systematic identity theft, fraud, and witness intimidation." Before she can continue, a commotion at the back of the courtroom interrupts her. Percy bursts through the doors, face flushed. "Your Honor," he calls out, "I have urgent evidence that needs to be presented." The judge frowns. "And you are?" "Percy Tucker, Your Honor, bank officer at Greenwood Bank. I have proof that the defendants attempted to destroy evidence this morning." Emma's heart races as she watches the lawyer jump up. "Objection! This is irregular." "I'll allow it," the judge says. "Approach the bench, Mr. Tucker." Percy hurries forward, pulling out his phone. "They came to the bank an hour ago, trying to access the safety deposit box where we keep the original documents. When I refused, they said this." He plays a recording of Mark's voice, filled with threats. "Listen here, you little rat. Delete everything, or we'll make sure you go down with us. We know where your kids go to school." Gasps echo through the gallery. Laura buries her face in her hands. "Your Honor," Sophie's voice is deadly calm, "I move to add witness intimidation and obstruction of justice to the charges." "You noted?" The judge's face darkens considerably. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, please approach the bench." Emma's parents shuffle forward, looking nothing like the powerful figures who had dominated her life for so long. "In light of this new evidence and the serious nature of these threats," the judge continues, "I'm issuing an immediate restraining order. You are to have no contact with any of the witnesses, including your daughter and Mr. Tucker." "But, Laura starts. "Furthermore," the judge continues, "given the flight risk and the attempt to destroy evidence, I'm freezing all your assets, pending trial." Their lawyer looks like he swallowed a lemon. "Your Honor, my clients have deep roots in the community." "Your clients have deep roots in fraud, counselor. Be grateful I'm not remanding them into custody right now." As if on cue, Juliet stands up. "Your Honor, I'd like to make a statement." Emma's parents turn, hope flickering across their faces, but it dies as soon as Juliet starts speaking. "I was there when they forged the signatures. I watched them do it, and I did nothing. I'm here to testify against them and accept whatever consequences come with my involvement." "No!" Laura's cry echoes off the walls. "Juliet, please." The judge calls for order. "Remove Mrs. Carter if she can't control herself." Mark grabs Laura's arm, pulling her back. His face has gone ashen. "We'll reconvene next week for formal arrangements," the judge announces. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, I suggest you seriously consider your position. The evidence against you is substantial." As they leave the courtroom, Emma hears her mother collapse into sobs behind her. Part of her wants to turn around to comfort her like she always had, but Sophie's hand on her shoulder keeps her moving forward. "You did good," Sophie whispers. "The hard part's over." But looking at her shattered family, Emma isn't so sure. The hard part feels like it's just beginning. Still, watching Percy stand tall despite their threats, seeing Juliet finally choose truth over loyalty, something inside Emma settles. Sometimes doing the right thing means watching everything burn to the ground first. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarm them with cameras and microphones. Sophie squares her shoulders, ready to tell their story. Emma nods, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. It's time to let the whole world know exactly what family can do to family. The media storm hits harder than any of them expected. Local news runs the story first, then national outlets pick it up. Family fraud scandal rocks community, becomes the headline everyone is talking about. Emma's phone won't stop buzzing with messages from journalists seeking interviews. "Don't answer any of them," Sophie warns, pacing her office. It's making your parents desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. She was right. That morning they receive an unexpected visitor, Laura's best friend, Susan. Emma, I need to show you something, Susan says, spreading letters across Sophie's desk. They're from various loan sharks dating back 5 years, each one more threatening than the last. This one's from 3 months ago. Susan points to a particularly nasty letter. They threatened to break Mark's legs if he didn't pay up. That's when they started using your identity. Well, are you showing us this? Emma asks, her heart racing. Because yesterday I overheard Laura on the phone. She's planning to flee the country. She has money hidden away. Cash, jewelry, things the courts don't know about. Sophie is already dialing Judge Martinez. We need an emergency hearing now. 2 hours later, they sit in the judge's chambers. Laura's face turns ghost white when she sees Susan walk in. You betrayed me, she whispers. No, Laura, you betrayed yourself, Susan replies. The judge listens as Susan details everything she knows about the hidden assets and escape plans. With each word, Laura seems to shrink further into herself. Where's Mark? Emma suddenly asks, noticing his absence. He left last night. Laura's voice cracks. Took whatever cash he could find and disappeared. Left this. She pulls out a crumpled note. Sophie snatches it before Laura can hand it to Emma, scanning it quickly. Your Honor. Sophie's voice is tight. This note suggests Mr. Carter has fled to avoid not just our charges, but apparently significant gambling debts to some very dangerous people. The judge reads the note, her expression darkening. Mrs. Carter, given these developments, I'm remanding you into custody until trial. Now, please. Laura reaches for Emma. Michaela, don't let them do this. I'm your mother. You stopped being my mother the moment you chose to destroy my life to save your own, Emma says, surprised by how steady her voice is as the bailiff leads Laura away. Juliet bursts into the chamber. They found Mark. Everyone turns to her as she holds up her phone, showing a news article that just broke. Local business owner found beaten in hotel room, suspected gambling debts. He's in the hospital, Juliet continues. It's bad, really bad. The judge sighs heavily. He'll be under police guard. Add assault charges to the growing list of problems these people have created. Back at Sophie's office, they try to process everything that has happened. Percy arrives with more documents, bank statements showing regular payments to offshore accounts. They've been moving money out of the country for months, he explains. Small amounts, trying to stay under the radar. But why? Emma asks. Why go to all this trouble? Because of this? Sophie turns her laptop around, showing an email she recovered from Mark's account. They weren't just running from gambling debts, they were running a Ponzi scheme through their business, using new loans to pay off old ones, stealing from family members to keep it going. How deep does this go? Juliet whispers. Deep enough to put them away for a very long time, Sophie answers. Emma's phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Your parents owe us money. Lots of money. Their problems are now your problems. Sophie reads it over Emma's shoulder. Save that. We'll add witness intimidation to the charges. Really ask for an albatross? Emma asks. No. Sophie's smile is grim. We follow the money. Every account, every transaction, every hidden asset. We're going to dismantle their entire house of cards. A knock at the door makes them all jump. A police detective stands there, looking grave. Miss Emma, we need to talk about your father. He's awake and asking for you. Says he wants to confess everything. Emma and Sophie exchange looks. This could be another manipulation tactic, or it could be the break they need. Should I go? Emma asks. Yes, Sophie says firmly, but not alone, and we're recording every word. As they gather their things to head to the hospital, Emma catches her reflection in the window. She hardly recognizes herself anymore. The naive daughter who trusted blindly is gone. In her place stands someone stronger, someone who won't back down. It's time to hear the truth, Sophie says, keys in hand. All of it, no matter how ugly it might be. The hospital room smells of antiseptic and defeat. Mark lies in the bed, his face a mess of bruises, one arm in a cast. 2 police officers stand guard outside the door. 5 minutes, the detective says. We'll be right outside. Sophie sets up her recorder as Emma approaches the bed. Mark's eyes flicker open, focusing on her with difficulty. You came, he whispers. Not for you, for the truth, Emma replies, her heart pounding. He nods slightly, wincing at the movement. I deserve this. I deserve all of this. Stop talking, Sophie commands, and remember, everything you say is being recorded. It started 10 years ago. Mark's voice is raspy. Small bets at first, then bigger ones. I thought I could win it all back, but the deeper I got, the more I lost. So you started stealing, Emma asks, her voice steady. The business was failing, banks wouldn't lend anymore. Then I met these guys. They offered easy money, high interest. But I was desperate. The loan sharks who did this to you? Sophie gestures at his injuries. Different ones. These guys. They're worse. They don't just break legs, they destroy lives. He coughs painfully. They suggested another way, said they knew people at banks who could help set up loans under different names. That's when you started using family members' identities, Sophie prompts. Yes. Your mother tried to stop me at first, but then they threatened us. Showed us pictures of you, Emma. Pictures of Juliet at work. We had no choice. There's always a choice, Emma snaps. You chose to sacrifice my future to save yourself. I didn't know what else to do, Mark pleads, desperation in his eyes. Just then the door bursts open. A nurse rushes in. His blood pressure is spiking. You need to leave. Wait. Mark grabs Emma's arm with surprising strength. There's more. The safety deposit box at Greenwood Bank. Box 247. The keys in my desk at home. Bottom drawer. Everything's there. Everything they made us do. His monitor starts beeping frantically. The nurse shoos them out as medical staff rush in. What now? Emma asks Sophie in the hallway. Now we get that key. An hour later, Emma and Sophie stand in her parents' study. The house feels empty, abandoned. Family photos stare down at them as they search Mark's desk. Here, Juliet exclaims, holding up a small key. At Greenwood Bank. Percy is waiting for them at the bank, his expression serious. He leads them to the safety deposit room, hands shaking as he inserts his master key alongside theirs. The box contains a thick envelope and a USB drive. Sophie pulls on gloves before touching anything. Smart move, she mutters. Everything's dated and organized. The documents tell a story worse than they had imagined. Photos of their family being surveilled, detailed instructions for identity theft, lists of bank employees who could be bribed, and names of people behind it all. This is bigger than your parents, Sophie says, scanning the papers. This is an organized crime ring using desperate people to commit fraud. Look at this. Percy points to a document. They've done this to dozens of families using the same playbook. Emma's phone buzzes again, another text from the unknown number. You found the box. Bad move. Very bad move. Sophie immediately calls the detective. We need to move this evidence now, she says, and get all of you into protective custody. No. Emma stands up, her voice firm. I'm done hiding, done being afraid. Michaela, these people are dangerous, Juliet pleads. So am I, Emma replies, turning to Sophie. Can we use this? Really use it? Sophie nods slowly. With this evidence, we can take down not just your parents, but the entire operation. But it'll be dangerous. These people won't go down quietly. Good, Emma says, determination flooding her. She grabs her phone and types a response to the unknown number. Game on. The reply comes instantly. Your funeral. They're trying to scare us, Sophie observes. Let them try. Looking at the evidence spread before them, proof of years of manipulation, fraud, and corruption, Emma feels something she hasn't experienced since this nightmare began. Hope. "Let's end this," she says. "All of it?" The courtroom falls silent as the judge prepares to deliver her verdict. Emma sits rigid in her chair, her heart pounding. Her parents sit beside each other, looking smaller than ever, still bearing the marks of their actions. "Before I deliver my verdict," the judge begins, "would any of the defendants like to make a final statement?" Laura stands, her designer outfit replaced by simple clothing that makes her look older and smaller. "I'd like to address my daughter," she says, her voice cracking. Emma feels Sophie tense beside her, but she nods. "Go ahead." "Frankly," Laura continues, "when you were little, I taught you that family means protecting each other. I realize now that I twisted that meaning. Instead of protecting you, I sacrificed you. There's no forgiveness for that kind of betrayal." Mark doesn't stand. He just stares at his hands, defeated. The judge clears her throat. "Having reviewed all evidence and testimony, this court finds the defendants guilty on all counts of fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and witness intimidation." She turns to Emma's parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter, your actions represent an extraordinary breach of trust. You didn't just commit fraud, you weaponized family bonds for personal gain. The court sentences you each to 10 years in federal prison." As the judge details their punishments, Emma's phone buzzes one last time. This isn't over. She shows it to the detective sitting behind her. He nods, typing rapidly on his phone. Within minutes, federal agents will be moving in on locations across the city, rounding up the last members of the criminal enterprise. "That's the last of them," he whispers. "The whole network is going down." As the bailiffs lead her parents away, Laura tries one last time. "Michaela, please." Emma stands, her voice steady. "You'll have 10 years to think about what family really means." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarm them. Sophie handles them expertly, while Emma hangs back with Juliet. "What happens now?" Juliet asks. "Never rebuilt," Emma replies, her heart swelling with hope. "The right way." Percy approaches them, holding a thick envelope. "The bank's fraud department finished their investigation. They're reversing all the fraudulent charges and restoring your credit. Plus this." He hands Emma a check for compensation for damages. The amount makes her eyes widen. "Thank you, Percy." Sophie grins. "Told you we'd make them pay." "There's something else," Juliet says quietly. "I found Mom's jewelry box. The real one, not the decoy they showed the courts. It's worth enough to help repay the other victims." A familiar voice calls out. "Michaela!" Aunt Margaret hurries over, followed by Uncle Robert and Cousin Sarah. Other family members who've been victimized join them, forming a circle of support. "We're having dinner tonight," Aunt Margaret announces. "All of us, the real family, the ones who stand together without lies." "Count me in," Sophie says, but first she pulls out her phone, showing them a news alert: major financial fraud ring busted, dozens arrested in coordinated raids. "They really got everyone," Emma says, looking at the detective who joins their group. He nods. "Your evidence was the key. Opened up investigations in 3 states. Nobody's going to be threatening your family anymore." That evening, Emma sits at Aunt Margaret's crowded dinner table, surrounded by family members who have chosen truth over deception. The conversation flows freely. Stories of healing, plans for the future, promises to protect each other the right way. Sophie raises her glass. "To Michaela, who taught us that real strength isn't about keeping secrets, it's about exposing them." "And to new beginnings," Juliet adds, "built on trust, not lies." Emma's phone lies silent. No more threats, no more manipulation, no more fear. Instead, it holds messages of support from other fraud victims who've read about their case and found the courage to come forward. "You know," Sophie says quietly, "your parents thought they were protecting the family by keeping secrets. But look around. The family's stronger now that the truth is out." She's right. Every person at this table has chosen to stand with Emma, to fight for justice, to redefine what family really means. The bonds between them aren't weakened by the exposure of truth, they're strengthened by it. As Aunt Margaret calls out, "Who's ready for dessert?" laughter fills the room, and Emma feels the last weight lift from her shoulders. Her parents had tried to teach her that family meant loyalty at any cost. Instead, they taught her something far more valuable. True family is built on honesty, even when that honesty hurts. The truth had cost her parents, but it had given Emma something better. A family built on real trust, real support, and real love. And that was worth fighting for.